Have you ever wondered how to transfer your photos, images, artwork, whatever, onto fabric and other surfaces? Well, I'm going to share with you how to do that. Hi, I'm Lesley Riley. In some circles, I'm known as the transfer queen. I've been transferring images to other surfaces for about 20 years now, but 10 years ago I started using my Tap Transfer Artist paper. And I'm here today to share with you the basics of working with the new formulation of Tap Transfer Artist paper to show you how to get it onto all sorts of surfaces. Depending on what you want to create, you might want to print one image on the full sheet of paper. Sometimes you're going to be working, you have a project or a plan and you only need one photo, but you don't want to waste all that paper. So I like to print at least 4 on the page. Sometimes I'll print the same image twice because if I make a mistake or change my mind, I have an additional one, a backup image. Another good thing to put on the page to fill up the space so that you're using it economically is a quote or a word that you like, your name. You could even do a quilt label. You want to create your quilt label in Word, and you can do that right on the same page that you're putting your photos on. You can open a Word document and place the photos on that page and print from there. If you know photo editing software like Photoshop, you can use that to get your images on the page. So once you've created your page in Word or Photoshop, you're going to print it out on the tap paper. There's 2 sides to Tap Transfer Artist paper. You're going to print on the white side of the paper, and that's easy to identify because the back side has the polka dots on it. What you need to do is to reverse the image because all transfers are done in reverse. So you need to tell the printer that you want it printed mirror image or reverse. Every printer has that function. You might not have seen it because you haven't been doing transfers. So after you hit the print button, there's another menu that comes up. Just look in that menu and there will be a function there to have you mirror image, or for some printers it says t-shirt transfer. It's nice and clear like that. But you have to reverse it if there's text, always if there's text, or if you want the end result to look exactly like what you're looking at now in real life. This is printed out onto the tap paper and it's ready for transfer. I've chosen For this, I'm using white fabric, just plain old ordinary cotton. Tap works best and is actually recommended that you always use natural fibers. It will work on synthetics, but you want to lower your heat when you iron. So I'm starting here with the tap and the white fabric just so you can get the basics down. You see exactly what I'm doing here nice and clearly. I have my iron. It's preheated, it's ready to go. It is set on the highest setting. Now if you have a synthetic fabric, you want to use a lower setting but iron for a longer time. But everything else you want that highest setting. I'm going to start in the center and I'm going to work in a circular motion. Once it starts to adhere to the fabric, you can get a little larger with your iron. You want to always have that circular motion. All right. It's obvious that right here, I wasn't paying enough attention to that edge. I like that because I like that because it gives it that look. It's not perfect. And to me, that's more artsy looking. It's fun to have a little variation in the end result so it doesn't look like it's a commercially printed image or something. You can take a sheet of silicone release paper, lay that on top of the image and iron over that. And that'll pick up some of that sheen, or most of it. You could also use a piece of muslin Even that likes to be thoroughly heated before peeled. Putting it in the wash will also remove that sheen. Okay? So now I'm ready to use it in my project. I can trim the edges with my rotary cutter. I like leaving that white border around the image when I transfer, because if I want to cut away down to that line, that gives me a nice clean line. The edges won't fray. Okay? You can also you can leave your 1/4 inch if you're piecing it into something else, but you've got a clean edge that's not going to have any fraying threads on it. All right, now let me show you what tap looks like on other fabrics besides plain old white cotton. I'm going to transfer this vintage image onto this vintage napkin here. When you're transferring onto white fabric, the polymer on the paper comes across as clear. The further away you get from white fabric, the more it's going to be noticeable. So this is a pale green fabric. I'll trim the edge of one side and leave the edge of the other so that you can see what it looks like when the polymer meets a fabric that's not bright white. Let's leave this one to cool, and then I'll show you what it's like when you're peeling it cool. This is nice and cool now. Let's see what it's like to peel it when it's cool. Voila! You can see right now, this edge here is nice. It was clean cut right up to the image, so there's no polymer. You have the image, and then you have the fabric as it is. On this side, where I left the white edge, did not trim that off, there's a little, it's darker in color here because the polymer has been absorbed into the fabric, and it's like when you get water in the fabric and that's dark. Well, this is permanent dark, but actually it makes a nice frame on here, if you can see that. So it's a way of framing your work, but also if you're going to piece this, you leave that edge, maybe leave it a little wider so that you can cut along it and have a non-fraying edge for piecing. I want to transfer this onto this fabric. I don't want it down here blue on blue. I don't want it up here with all the yellow, so I like the way this blue comes up underneath a chair. But then remember, this is all going to be in reverse. So I'm going to turn this over. Actually, if you hold it up a little bit like this and let some light come in between, you can see it reflecting onto the fabric, or you can see through it and see where the placement is. Also, you could hold it up to a window and check the placement, but you want to make sure that it's where you want it to be. Like if this was a face or something that was important, you didn't want to distort it. You want to make sure that you haven't transferred a face and gotten the eye on the edge of something that's going to make it look very strange. Start the timer again, and here we go. Okay, I'm going to check now to see. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. A little bit here, I can go back in. That's the beauty of it. You can go back in, give it a little more ironing, maybe press down or scrape the edge, and wonderful. Okay, this is the polymer that did not melt because I wasn't paying attention. Life is not always perfect. We get interruptions all the time. But the beauty is that you can take the silicone release paper or an ironing mat, piece of muslin, and iron right over that. That'll help melt what's there and lift the rest. All right, you can see that that polymer's melted in, it's gone, there's nothing to interfere with the beauty of the image. I just want to show you a few more ideas and ways to work with fabric, tap and fabric. I found this drawing in my stash, and I thought it would look really nice on this fabric that has a very subtle pattern of leaves. Since we've got a bird here with a branch, putting it on this fabric would actually enhance the image. All right. Beautiful. Okay, I love how the off-white, the blue works over the off-white and the gold edges around the leaves. It really adds a lot to this image. I think next time, if I do work with this in a project, I'm going to make the image larger and take advantage of the larger scale print behind it. But it's got a lot of possibilities. All right, this is a nice smooth woven burlap. I guess you call it a decorator burlap. It's not the rough kind. The rough kind has a lot of little hairs on it, and it's more of an open weave. And when you're ironing a transfer, you want something smooth and even, and regular burlap is not smooth and even. I'm using a larger scaled image on this larger weave, because if you were going to do a very detailed image or a small image, you might lose a little bit of that detail just because of the size of the weave here. Because this is an open, loose weave, rather open, I'm going to let that one cool too and peel it cold. Okay, it's a little warm, but I think it's cool enough to peel. Wow, this is awesome. Look at that. I love this. You can see the weave of the fabric. There's a lot of contrast in this one. Colors stand out. The edges here blend into the fabric. I call this one a winner. This is great. So stay tuned for the next video, Tap Basics on wood, glass, mica, metal, and more.